there, all my art journal club people. This is Ashley again with Marsh Flower Studio. If you haven't seen the first video that I put out for this channel, I'm going to be talking about different ways that you can art journal, some different tips and techniques to kind of clear your head of all the things that you have going on. So in this video, you'll have to pardon my tiny tornado toddlers and their background noise from time to time. In this video, I'm going to be showing you something I'm going to do to my cover of my new book, and then I'm going to start working on one of my new pages. So we're going to do the cover first, and I did glue these in since my last video. My nice, pretty clean gray cover here. I found this pattern online, and this is a technique that one of my art teachers many years ago taught me. For those of us that are not the most epic drawers ever, this is something that you can do, and since you're doing this just for yourself, you're not doing it to make money, it's okay. All right, so I want to transfer this design to the front of my book. So I've printed it out, and what I've done is I've covered the back with some graphite. It's a regular pencil, and you just rub the back of it to cover where your design is. And I do this a lot for a lot of different things. I also don't have, the prettiest handwriting, so I'll also use this technique for some of the fonts that I want to use. If I want something to be a little more pretty, or I want to make sure that it's sized correctly, I'll do the same idea. I'll print it out exactly the way I want it to be on my page, and then I will transfer it to the page and then go over it with whatever color I want to use. So for the cover here, I've got some regular tape. And first, I'm going to take and fold this edge over here around the side of this book. I'm going to open it up and kind of tape this in place on the inside. And be careful not to mess up anything that you've already put on the inside cover if you have something like I do here. I'll put this one going this way. And then I'm going to put a couple more pieces of tape down the side here. I'm going to do one kind of down here towards the bottom for right now. And then I recommend using a pen or marker. A pen is probably going to be better. You want something that has some color to it, so that as you trace your design, you can see where you've been on this part of the pattern, okay? So I'm going to take and kind of draw this design out, and you can obviously leave out things that you might not want to have. For example, if you don't want your little flower design here to have, you know, so many rows, you can leave those rows out, just don't trace them. Okay, so I'm gonna go over a couple different designs here. And depending on the color of your page or the color of your cover, this may work out better for some than others. I'm a little interested to see how it works out for mine here in a second. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I do this because I like the pattern. And I know if I sit here and try to draw out all the little circles and space everything correctly. It's going to take a lot longer, and in the end, I'm probably not going to like the way that it looks, especially once I find a design that I really like. It can be hard for me to let go of that idea. I'll finish this part right here. And once I'm kind of done with all of this part, what I'll do is I'll untape it and then slide the paper over so that this part over here that lines up with this pattern, or I guess more right in this area because it'll be that side of the flower. This part, I'll slide it over so that it lines up with the pattern to finish these last 2 little inches on this side over here. Or I may decide to put something else over top and kind of give it a little bit more of a substantial kind of wraparound binding here. So I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. It might be hard to see in the camera. You can see a little better if I hold it up. You can see where you can see some of that graphite kind of showing through on the book. So that's what I'll do for this whole page. And then once I've got the whole thing done, as far as tracing my pattern onto the cover, I'll take the paper off and then I'll go back over the pattern with whatever color marker I think I'm going to use for this. And I'll probably do kind of a dusty blue color, that kind of colonial, traditional country blue, because I think that would look really nice with this gray. So I'll do that. And one of the great things about this is once you have it taped in place, you can work on it a little while, put it to the side, and come back to it and not have to worry about your paper or your pattern being in the wrong place and kind of messing it up. So if you're going to do something like this, especially on the cover, I highly recommend you tape it in place before you start. And you can do what I just did, leave part of it uncovered so that you can check your progress and make sure that it is showing through. Okay, so moving on from that, I'm going to show you guys one of these pages that I'm going to start here. So this is a little kind of saying thing to remind yourself every day. You don't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect. Having a bad day is okay. Everybody has them, adults and kids, toddlers. It's okay. Okay. Small steps are also progress. Asking for help is strength. It's hard to ask for help. Oh, my tiny toddlers are asking for help right now. And I'll go help them in just a second. I'm a big one about having trouble asking for help because I feel like I should be able to do it all. And it does take some strength and some guts to ask someone for help and not feel weak doing it. So that's one that I struggle with a lot, but I'm working on it. And then the last one, people love and appreciate you. This is something that I kind of lose track of from time to time. I feel like I'm just doing my job, as it were, and that nobody really cares. So I have to remind myself that I have lots of people that love me, lots of people that appreciate what I do, and sometimes I just need to be reminded of that. So I'm going to put this lovely little thing in my art journal for today. I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the cover for this. I'm going to cover the back with this pencil. And you don't have to cover the entire back. You just need to cover the part that you are going to, as it were, trace onto your page. And one of the things I should remind everyone about, depending on the kind of printer you have, this can happen. I was curious if this was going to happen with this particular printer because it's a new printer that I haven't used as much, especially for this kind of project. So sometimes if you are doing this, you want to make sure that you're not on top of something that will get messed up if this happens. So I'm going to take this paper with my pretty writing on it, and I'm going to put it on my table to finish going over all those nice little fonts so that I can just trace those onto this paper. With this, I'm going to see if one of these erasers I have, this was one of my all-time favorite erasers when I was in art school. It's a Rub Clean, and it is amazing. Okay. Well, looks like it's getting most of it off. The art store that was right by campus carried these. And I grabbed it one day because they didn't have the kind that I normally used. And I got it and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is like so much better than the one I had been using, which I'm sure was just, a typical, school eraser. This gets rid of lots of stuff. All right, so it's not perfect, but it's much better. And it's okay because I'm going to cover this paper with a whole bunch of different colors and designs, maybe even a little bit of alcohol ink or watercolor, so it's going to be okay. Most of it is gone, and that's great. So I'm going to use some of these markers that I have. I pick up markers all over the place. Some of them are fancy, expensive markers. Some of them have probably come from the dollar store, to be honest. I see colors that I like, and I'll get a couple in the colors that I think are the prettiest. And then later I'm like, oh man, I don't have a gray, or I don't have a brown, or I don't have a black. But one of the big things about me is just using color to create a feeling. So again, here it doesn't have to be perfect. And if you're using water-based markers and mixing in alcohol-based markers, that can be a really fun thing to do. I have done that quite a bit with the water-based markers. Once you get them wet with water, they'll start to bleed out through the paper, and they'll kind of avoid the area where the alcohol-based markers are, and then you'll put alcohol on the alcohol markers, and then it'll bleed. So it creates some really cool effects. This is one of my favorite blues right here. It's kind of a teal color. It's not quite as light as my, Bahamas ocean. I think I want to retire to the Bahamas one day. Have that pretty aqua water outside. Walk on the beach. pick up shells. Let's add some more colors here. One thing when you're choosing your book, you want to make sure that you're picking a book that has some decent paper. A couple of the books that I've used over the years, the paper's been a little bit more like construction paper. So very easy to tear, it gets wet and it pretty much falls apart. So you want to make sure you get a paper that's got a tighter weave to it so that doesn't happen to you. Now, if you're just using pencils and color pencils and crayons and things like that, then it won't matter. But if you're using any good markers, any of the permanent markers for sure, you'll have trouble These pinks look like they're pretty much the same. There's a little difference to them. Not much though. Let's see, this one is Carnation. The other pink is just pink. So Carnation and pink look very similar. Let's see, here's a violet. I was saying I use all kinds of different markers that I just kind of pick up from wherever. That doesn't mean I don't have some very nice art supplies as well. I've treated myself over the years. And I honestly couldn't tell you how many sets of Prismacolor color pencils I own at this point, because it's a lot. That's another really nice, pretty blue. Just a second, I'll show you what I'm doing with this. So I'm getting some color here. It's still very much wet. I can feel how cold the page is down here where I'm laying my arm and my hand on it. This color right here is one of my all-time favorites. This one says magenta. If you've worked at all with different brands, you'll know that similar colors often have completely different names. Some of the alcohol inks that I use, they'll look exactly the same when I use them, but one will be called Hot Pink and one will be called Boysenberry or something. And it's always kind of like, I thought I was working with some different stuff, and somehow these two different brands have managed to make the same color or one you think is going to come out more purple, and it comes out just like the other. I wish one company would kind of take over all the color situation and that everybody would stick with it. Okay, so now I'm going to grab alcohol real quick. This is a water-based marker. And I have some paint brushes handy. Always got plenty of art supplies laying around. And this is just your typical, you know, grocery store alcohol. The alcohol's not having much effect here. Smeared it a little bit, but not much. Okay. So one of the other things, because I don't have any water in here at the moment, that I use a lot, and not just for sticking things together, is my glue. And there's some really fun things that you can do with glue that have nothing to do with sticking stuff together. So I'm going to get some glue up here on my page. And if you don't like the way something is looking, you can always go back over it with something else, right? Like if this just turns out to be a complete and utter disaster and hot mess, which right now I'm kind of feeling it might be, then I can come back and glue a picture over the top. Or I can just glue it to the page in front of it here and then pretend like it never existed. So I haven't done this particular trick with these kinds of markers before, and it turns out that it's not doing what I want it to do. So that's how this goes, right? Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, and it's all okay. I am gonna go and kind of color some more over top of this. Let's see. We'll do some smaller designs. Oh, got a little close to the glue with that one. This right now kind of reminds me of an intestine, which I'm not loving. Let's see. Put some lines. So there are parts of this that I like, and parts that I'm feeling are just not quite there. So I am probably going to keep some of this, and then I'm going to find some stuff to cover up the other parts. Or I may just come back and put a little layer of white paint over this kind of top section, because that's really kind of where I'm not super happy. I'll put some white over that real lightly so you can still see the color, but it's not so distracting. And I might even put a little bit over this bottom part as well. And then I can still put my transferred words on there and have a colorful background with a nice finished page. I'm going to keep experimenting with some of my markers and some of my water and alcohol to kind of see which ones I have now that are going to work better. I definitely thought these were going to work a little better with the alcohol than they did, because that really didn't smudge it at all. Usually it immediately kind of seeps in and starts to spread the colors out. So you try things, you learn things. That's what it's all about. This is not intended to be a masterpiece by any means. It's just a place for you to kind of take some time to think, create, get out of your head, and just, you know, have some you time. I kind of like the back of this page a little better. And then it bled through to the page underneath. But that's okay, because I can use that and kind of build off of this for this next page. I'll probably use the back of this one as well. So that's going to be it for today. I'm going to finish working on this, and next time I'll show you guys how it turned out. Thanks. Remember to like and subscribe to the videos, and I'll keep posting them.